We will start with roll call. Carter?
Here.
Bertles? Engels?
Present.
Dubravik?
Here.
Eel?
Here.
Snyder?
In here.
Okay, we do have a quorum.
So we're going to do the approval for the agenda for
Sure.
today, August 14th. Somebody wants to make a motion.
I'm going to suggest one switch we make to the agenda is the new business, the work application for the Wolves at 427 East Cass. We'll just slide that farther down the agenda and see if Dr. Wolf shows up here in the next few minutes. And then we'll go from there, if that's all right with you folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, we will make that change. As far as approving the agenda with the change, Dubravik, yes or no?
Yes.
Eel,
Yes.
Engels?
Which meeting are we approving?
We're
sorry.
approving the agenda and just, we're approving the agenda, but we are suggesting making the switch to the
Okay.
work application a little later.
Sorry, of
Okay.
course, yeah.
Engels, yes.
Yeah.
Carter,
Yes.
Bertles, and Snyder.
Yes.
We have the January 9th meeting minutes. We have not had a quorum since to actually approve them. Everybody's had them. I did make some extra copies, and they're in front of Mark.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So if anyone has any particular questions on it,
Just those previous minutes.
and if not, we need someone to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve? Second.
I'll second.
Second? Yes or no vote? Engels?
I was not here, so I will abstain.
Abstain? Okay. Carter?
I wasn't on the board. I'm not sure if I should.
You can.
Okay, then.
Yeah,
I-
you can vote yes, no.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Bertles is not here. Dubravik?
Yes.
Eel?
Yes.
And Snyder?
Yes.
Okay, the January 9th minutes are approved. Mark, if you don't mind, I'd like to gab for just a minute.
Sure.
Next on the agenda under the new business is the election of officers for 2017. It's important, but we've, you know, if you folks want to discuss it, we've gotten by to this point, you know, having either you as the secretary or Jill, she was the vice chair, but she's not on the board. We can certainly discuss and see if we can come to an agreement for officers, which would be chairperson, co-chair, secretary, or if you wish, technically, I think you could table it. But we clearly, regardless, need to do something ASAP in 2018. What's your thoughts, Gwen and Mark?
I think
and-
that Michelle would make an excellent chair because she's chaired a similar sort of commission where she came from in Orange County, correct?
Mhm.
That was a leading question.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Tremendous
Yeah,
background
I think
experience.
I would prefer to wait a year because this is my, you
Yeah,
know,
just walking in.
first year on the board. Nice try there.
Just a thought.
Thanks for that.
Other than, I mean, running the meeting is an awkward thing if you aren't used to running something, but other than that, we're all, you know, sort of bumbling through. And on this commission, usually we have to look every time at our guidelines and directives and whatever of like, well, what applies here? You know, it's mostly just following the standards for historic preservation for whomever does take it on.
And we have procedures and bylaw, basically it's
Yeah.
procedures, which,
Yeah.
you know, which as staff we obviously help with. So, I know, Mark, you've been secretary for a long time, and how
A
long has it been
decade.
since you've had to take the minutes? So
It's like I sign them.
We as staff help, you know what I'm saying?
You've been you've been a huge help.
That is my point, is, again, Michelle and John, we really appreciate you guys getting on this particular commission, because we've really had a hard time getting people to serve. And, we had such a knowledgeable chairperson for so long that, we all knew it was a huge loss. I mean, we knew it, and it is.
Yeah.
We miss Nan. We miss Nan, so.
So those are my thoughts. Then we have John Eel, who would be an excellent person as well, because I know Mark doesn't want to.
I'll go back to being secretary.
So Gwen, what's your current role?
I'm an advisor.
You're an advisor. So
Yes.
She's advising now.
I'm advising.
Couldn't you be
her.
chair?
Well, I'm rather inconsistent, and I will continue to be so, at least for the next few months, for sure.
Okay.
So like I'm about to leave in 2 weeks, I'll leave and I'll be gone. I don't know how long. I might be gone 2 weeks. I might be gone a month. I don't know. So on and off for health reasons and family. So
Okay.
I'm inconsistent from that perspective. So because of those health things coming up, I'm kind of already over obligated with, not really here, this is once a month, but other stuff in town too that I'm having to pull back from some. So so probably I wouldn't be a consistent chair,
Okay.
So there you go.
I've been on like medical board meetings, but I've never been on a city-run meeting, so that it's a little intimidating to me to be chair, unless I absolutely have to be.
Yeah. So Mark, I think you should. Anne?
Oh, I second.
Yeah. Well, Mark, can you be treasurer?
We made a motion, Mark.
Can you be treasurer and?
Secretary, treasurer, and chairman.
Yeah.
Treasurer is
Make a
not
motion.
really
I don't think we have a
because
Oh, that's right.
the commission doesn't have any money.
I don't have any money.
Yeah.
We wish we did.
Oh, this is non-paying. I don't know if they told you that.
And mind you, we are at a point now, let's face it, we've only got, 4 more months?
I was just
And do
gonna.
we even have any, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's your decision.
So it'd just be
yours.
through like January then, really. I mean, then we vote again.
I would think that, assuming we have work applications or we do need to meet, it's something that should be obviously very seriously figured out for next year. I mean, it'd be great if Michelle or John just jumped up and said, yeah, I want to do it, but I certainly understand their position of, hey, let's get some meetings under our belt first,
Sure.
I think the major problem for me too is I don't understand the bylaws yet, and there's no book
Right.
to read for the bylaws. Or
We should all have a copy of bylaws.
Yes.
I'll send it
Can
to
we get
you.
a copy?
If you don't, it's on our website and everything, but I'll send you, I'll send you that. You should have gotten it, but if we didn't, I'll get it to you tomorrow.
okay, great.
I'll get it to you tomorrow, so, but, okay. So the answer is table or?
Oh, I'll do it.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Nice job.
Thank you.
See, because you can create your whole own commission and atmosphere with your oodles of experience.
Okay, so we have the chairperson.
I'm excited.
Nominated for chairperson. Mark, you're willing to continue secretary.
Yes.
How about a vice chairperson, which we technically have to have?
I'll be vice chair. All right.
Okay.
Would you like a motion for that? Do you need a motion? Or are we still
Definitely need to
discussing?
have a motion and a support.
Okay, I make a motion for Michelle Carter to be the chair, and Johnny will be the vice chair,
And secretary.
and Mark Snyder to be the
Continue.
secretary.
I second it.
Okay, well, we are going to have a vote on this then. Bertles, not here. Carter?
Yes.
Brown? No? Not here. Engels?
Yes.
Dubravik?
Yes.
Eel?
Yes.
Snyder?
Yes.
It passes.
Yay, thank you.
Michelle and John, we will give you all the information you need and all the help you may need.
Wonderful.
Guarantee you that,
Thank you.
okay? Not a problem, not a problem.
I think it's very exciting.
Switch seats.
Mark, can I gab some more? We'll go down the old business and I'll fill people in on a couple things. We can come back to the work application, or we can do that now. It does not appear Dr. Wolf and I thought from our communication last week, he knew that the person from the roofing company that came last month didn't need to be here. I don't know if he interpreted that as he didn't need to be here, I just don't know. But we can review the work application, and I do have a few notes, but if you want, we can wait, or we can get into that now. And some notes I have from last meeting. You want to get into it now or wait?
Should we just wait just a bit more? We could
I
do
think we should
the
wait.
Cobb's.
You mean for him?
Well, I just meant we could do the Cobb's
Oh, sure.
first.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that.
The update on the Cobb's and Mitchell building.
Walks in, we'll handle that. A couple things I just want to mention on the Cobb's Mitchell building update. All of you are familiar with the new owner, Rob Mungar. He meets very, very regularly with a variety of people, city manager. He's met, of course, with mayor, with our community development director. I've provided him with tons of information that we have on that building. Old engineering surveys, old diagrams of what MDOT was thinking of doing with the building, 2 decades ago, a lot of that kind of information. What I did put on each of your desks, and I just got that today, it basically shows changes that they're considering to the interior of that building to make the offices usable. He's got 2 tenants that it appears are ready to sign on board. Both are office related. One is the engineering firm Prine and Newhoff, moving their offices in there, and the other is Edward Jones Investment Company. Their corporate people that are involved in construction, whatever, are, they're reviewing it to see if it would meet their standards. So Rob Mungar has met with a gentleman, Rob McKay, with Shippo in Lansing, who have been up here. They've went through the building with him. They've reviewed his plans. So what I included for you folks were proposed changes to the remodeling of the interior of that building, and I included the copies where Shippo had made all of their recommendations, etc. The interior of the building is not something that this particular commission really reviews. You review exterior things on buildings, but I obviously knew you would want to see what he is proposing doing and what Shippo, State Historic Preservation Office, is asking them to do to meet what they would consider to be the international standards. So I haven't really looked at it carefully, other than, I thought it was interesting. Shippo basically is asking them, they want to put a lift and elevator in the interior. Gwen, and Mark, you probably remember the previous owner. There was actually an exterior approval for an elevator years ago that never happened. That right now is not even being considered. They figured out how to do it on the interior of the building. It's not going to be a huge elevator. They don't need a freight elevator because the stairwells are extremely wide. So if you need to move furniture and things, there's adequate room. But they are proposing put it in an interior elevator. Shippo did ask them to move it a little differently, relating to walls and different things like that. But I thought you folks would certainly want to see what they're looking at doing.
We also discussed that basement level, that they would have the like handicap entrance, from the sidewalk off of Main Street going in. Is that?
I don't see that on there. I know they're gonna have to do something, but that will, if it's a change to the exterior, they're clearly gonna have to come before you folks.
Okay.
But I know right now they're looking at getting things done to the interior so they can get tenants in there to start generating revenue. And they're also working on a landscaping plan, and a big part of their landscaping plan is gonna be more visibility of the building. I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at what they've already taken out, they clearly want the building seen. And the big spruce trees that they took out, and one of the dying trees that was near the southwest corner, and there was a big pine near the northeast corner, and other things have been taken out. There were a couple of dying trees actually along the right-of-way on Chapin Street. Those are gone. So the visibility of the building has changed remarkably already as far as from the street when you're driving by, and they do want it to be seen. And the DDA's also been working on a plan for part of that south entrance into the downtown. If you take a look at that, what we call the right-of-way, which is between the sidewalk and the curb along Mitchell Street, it's very, very wide. And so the DDA's been talking about planting some trees along there in that right-of-way to create a little bit of a, the Tree City look, potential down the road, a little bit of canopy and so forth. And that's something that the DDA has been looking at. And they even hired a consultant to come in and take a look at the entire stretch of Mitchell Street through the downtown and the DDA district to see what type of species would be best. And anytime you get into that there, you're dealing with, Mitchell Street is an MDOT property, and MDOT does require a basically a little bit higher concentration of salt in their sand and salt mix on their roads than, for example, the city uses in residential districts. So you need to be careful with species, etc.
I have one question.
Sure.
Has anything, or do you know anything, because these are all interior changes to make it usable, the building, but do you have any idea of anything, how this gentleman is planning to address where those bricks have been blown out from moisture behind them on the, the facade of the building?
He's already had a little bit of brickwork, tuck work done and so forth, and that's my understanding is, the tucking, the repairing, the so forth, and I know he's already gotten some done, and he plans to continue with repairing.
I think he has an issue in the drip line. I mean, that's water
Sure.
behind those bricks where they
Right.
blew out the face,
Yeah.
So it's probably, they did that asphalt roof, it may or may not, but it probably covered an old gutter that's pooling water. That's similar to something that's happening at the Carnegie Library that they're worried
That's
about.
you're talking under the soffits or the eaves? or-
Fascia, yes, under the soffits, the
Under the
fascia back
soffits.
there, you probably have covered over gutters.
Sure.
But, because the source of water's up high, you know what I mean, because obviously gravity, and
Yeah, you
those
can
bricks
see
are
it.
blowing out right below the drip line, or else it was a poorly done drip line, one or the other.
It's right at the, are you talking about the one where right
In
at
the
the corner
corners,
by the
yeah.
window?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think we talked
Mhm.
about this. And I
It's
took
right
some
under the
photos,
roof
and I
line.
think that there are some downspouts, and something's not right in there. But
Well,
they can.
we're-
Should be an
yeah.
easy fix.
Yeah, yeah.
But, it's a fix they
what
should
I-
do.
What I will
Mhm.
do, Gwen, is
Yeah.
I'll certainly send Rob an email
Mhm.
and just let him know that this question was asked, and
Mhm.
if I, certainly get a response, I can email it to you.
Sure, that'd be great.
So,
Or I could talk to him
More than
directly or
happy to
whatever,
ask him.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter, But not that he has to report to us on maintaining his brickwork per se, but just that depending on who he's working with, if the roof hasn't been brought up, the roof is probably the issue, is why he's having a problem with the brick, right there at the top, because it's right below the drip line,
Yeah.
But that just, we all watched it get
I'll
worse year by
definitely
year.
let him know that question was brought up, and,
Mhm.
yeah, because it's obviously gonna, it causes deterioration and rotting and
Yeah.
potential problems.
Every time it rains, and afterwards you can see
Mhm.
that darkness, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
just kind
wicking
of
at
soaking
it.
in. It's kind of a minor thing. Those old bushes that were on each side of the walkway going up the main entrance. I know like up at the hospital in Traverse City, Building 50, they have like all the trees actually mapped out.
Right.
Is there, those were actually, I don't think those were native. I think those were, probably original. And I'm just wondering, is there any protection for that kind of thing next time?
I'm not aware of it. I mean, again, I know that a landscape plan is being put together.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be nice.
And, you know, but just knowing how, I think it's gonna, I should say, I think it's gonna work. It'll be pretty detailed with types of species and location, et cetera. And the type of trees that they're looking at specifically along Mitchell Street in the right-of-way are called a bur oak. So, so that's what the consultant recommended, based on a variety of things. Some of it being their hardiness to salt.
That's a good question, Rick.
Yeah, I'm curious about,
Yeah.
I had that old schoolhouse south of town, and there's an old ponderosa pine, and you just don't see those. You know, I sold it like a couple months ago, but you know, I'd hate to see it go, but it's not a historical property. I was just curious what those bushes were. They were weird. I mean, they were odd looking,
Sure.
you know, so.
Sure.
Something to look up.
Yeah, it is something to look up.
Pardon?
It's
Some-
something to look up. If- yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's-
We can
I
go
mean, like in our
there.
cemetery, we have some, great trees. I don't even know what they are.
Horticulturist, but I think I
You
know
know,
someone
these
that could help us. I
weeping-
think I know someone that
Yeah.
could help us with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll ask these questions and see what we can find out.
Okay.
They're good questions, so.
I guess the other is a certified local government application, how that's going.
I recently spoke with SHPO on that, and we've had a couple different people change positions in Lansing having to do with that program. But particularly with the issue of getting surveys done of additional properties throughout the city and downtown. That was the big question, and they were just, as I was concerned, caution to the wind of giving our final new goals, which we came up with, to them, because then the clock starts ticking as to meeting your annual goals. Do you follow? So, in talking to them, I told them we have some new members. I know we talked about with Pat Bertles, groups of people or individuals doing some of the surveys, which we can do. But they did, the lady recommended that, you know, we make sure we know how we're gonna get that accomplished, you know, for us to submit our final application. We've submitted a draft, they sent back wanting things changed, we've done it, but, you know, so.
Would it be okay if you just gave kind of a quick background of the CLG? Because, are you guys familiar with that? No.
Okay.
I know about the issue. I'm not
Okay.
familiar with the certified local government, though.
Okay.
The state of Michigan, I'm sure other states have it too, because it has to be approved, I believe, through a federal agency, maybe the National Park Service, etc. But it is a certification that when you get it, it basically has you follow certain standards, you create goals for making sure that properties are inventoried on a, say, regular basis, every 5 years, whatever. You also have other things involved, which we've done, some training, some other things like that. Potentially, if you have this certification, there are some grants that publicly owned properties can apply for through SHPO. It's a good program. The dollars are very small. I mean, the overall dollars that SHPO has to award in grants annually averages about $160,000 a year statewide. And they tend to give a lot of their grant money to historic properties that are in southeast Michigan, Detroit proper. They tend to get a, well, the 5-year period we evaluated, City of Detroit, public properties got 40% of their annual grant money. So the rest is distributed statewide to 20-some communities. But you can be eligible for it, but it's for like publicly owned properties. So potentially, I would assume our museum might qualify, that sort of thing. So you have that. It's just kind of like a step up. I'm trying to think of the right word. Kind of like a cut above our current historic district commission. It's just kind of like it's a cut above as far as our status with the State Historic Preservation Organization. I'm trying to, I don't have my notes on that here, so I'm trying to kind of
That was good.
thumb through it. So, I mean, it's a nice thing to have.
You know what, I'm curious, when they did the survey of like the, did the original survey, would it have to be redone, those other buildings that aren't in the historical district, but?
That's part of it. That's part of it. But
Making
what
it-
we would probably do is start with other properties first.
Okay.
Are we making it bigger, the area?
Well, the survey area bigger, yes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the historic district being
Okay.
bigger,
Okay.
you know. So.
We're not expanding that necessarily.
Not necessarily, because then you've got to get property owners engaged, and, my opinion would be property owners would have to say, yeah, we want our neighborhood to be a part of this expanded area. It would take time, but it's, it's-
Hypothetically, what would that take to make that, like if we had an extra block of homeowners that wanted to join the district?
Personally, I don't think it would take a lot other than surveys and a majority of property owners coming to city council,
Okay.
coming here and then coming to city council.
Okay.
I would have to, I don't know all of SHPO's rules and regulations, but, clearly when the historic district was created, and Gwen, you were a part of that, weren't you?
I was here when it happened, yes.
Exactly. So, I mean, my opinion is the neighbors, the neighborhood would have to show an interest, and then we would start with evaluations and, gauge the interest of the property owners. And ultimately, it would, I'm sure you folks, they would come before you, and then a recommendation before city council. And I don't know the exact process, but I believe that's what it would be.
Thanks.
The general picture of how it was handled last time
Mm-hmm.
was that there were, pardon me, surveys canvassing whatever properties were being evaluated. So you had a huge evaluation done. The gentleman was paid to go and evaluate whether they're contributing or non-contributing properties. Every property with much, much broader than what our actual historic district footprint is. And then within all of those, they sent out surveys to homeowners, and what they were looking for was, it really was not a law or anything like that. They could have arbitrarily instituted a historic district had they chosen to, the city
Okay.
council, but they wanted strong approval of the residents
Mhm.
to be happy that they were in the historic district. So their goal was to look for a footprint that involved definitely over 50. I think the state kind of recommended you want to aim for over 50%, but I think they wanted it even higher. So I think they went even 60, 65, whatever percent of consents within the neighborhood of owners, homeowners, whether they were rentals or owner occupied, saying, yes, we want this to be a historic district. That's how they went.
Okay.
That's how they drew the footprint.
Cool.
So there were other areas that you may have had several people interested, but perhaps not enough to pull it into the district. And then they did some oddball, like pulling in some, like your property, they just jogged over for that one block because it's such a significant property for your home, and they did the same thing for the Carnegie Library over there.
Sure, yeah.
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 So it's not really boxed in quite as neatly as it would be. That's why, is because those are big, significant buildings anyway, so they kind of just plumped them in there. But so it wasn't really a law or a mandate per se, as much as just the city management trying to make sure that the populace was happy with being in a historic district before they had an extra layer, like including us and these
Mhm.
bylaws that we follow to,
Right.
as oversight over the home, so.
Well, that's cool.
That was it. So really, the pre-stuff was already done. So it'd be a matter of, and I think, recanvassing neighborhoods, and they did have more than one, didn't they have more than one public hearing?
We had several, I remember,
several,
years ago, yes.
like a few, for people in the neighborhoods to come and ask
And
questions.
comments and
Yeah,
questions, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, the Historic District Commission had multiple public hearings, or?
Before it
We
was-
didn't
had one and then
exist.
city council
Before it
had some
existed.
also? Before city council? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
we had people from, like, the Historic Commission from Lansing, they came
Yeah,
up and
yeah,
did,
SHPO?
yeah.
yeah, SHPO, that's right.
Mhm. Yeah, this whole little layer entity didn't even exist. We weren't here then, so.
Okay. So the
Wendy Moore
commission
was
didn't
big
even
into
exist
that at that time.
Mhm.
So the commission kind of was created after
Mhm.
you had the
Interest.
stakeholders, property owners, who said, we want to have a historic district. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
So it wouldn't be as cumbersome if you wanted to add on.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I guess with the new business, they're probably not,
They're not here.
Not gonna be
They're-
here.
They're not here, so.
so we have
We
to,
can go ahead. I mean, we've got, we looked at it we talked about it last week, but we can talk through the application. I can go through what we have and go from there.
okay, let's do, is that fine to discuss it even
Oh,
though they're
yeah,
not here?
I have no
Okay.
problem with it.
Okay.
I mean, he's already got an
We're
asphalt
good.
roof,
We're good.
right?
Yeah.
I'll
So-
kind of take over from here. The first picture here is one that we took a couple years ago, I believe it was, when they came before us to put the metal roof on their garage in back. And part of that, when that was approved, part of it was just the discussion that, and that's a true metal roof, was, you really couldn't see the roof line from the sidewalk anyway. But I use this picture again because it shows the current type of asphalt shingle that is on the roof. And last week, comments that were made, Nick Matthias from a roofing company came, and he spoke a little bit about the product that the Wolves wish to use. But some of my notes of things that were discussed was what would have been maybe 100 years ago, the original wood shingle roof. There's been at least 3 different composite type roofs on there, and the Wolves estimate that this particular type of shingle roof was put on in 1990. That was
Present.
what's on there now. They were estimating that was put on in 1990.
And I think it's called is it single tab? Because it's really, it looks flat.
It looks flat.
Yeah, it's very, when you look at it in person, it's really flat.
And the garage, the metal roof that's on the garage, that's called a panel metal roof, but it's, it's the paneling. The type of roof that they're wanting to put on basically is, I'm gonna find my picture here. It's called a granite. Let's go here. It's called a granite coated roof. And it's got metal underneath it. And there is a sample of the exterior surface. It's a circular sample that was there that he had left. And I think you folks have, I don't know if you passed it around, but it's got the metal, underneath it. Basically, some of the things that, they talked about is that this type of roof, it supposedly better insulation, certainly more fire resistant. It has locking panels. The metal that the crushed granite is adhered to is 28 gauge. Part of why it's more fire resistant is typical asphalt shingles have a fair amount of petroleum in them, and these being a granite crushed stone, they are They don't have the petroleum like a standard asphalt roof would have. Yeah, they talked about better insulation properties. They talked about how it can help protect soffits, drip edges. The metal flashing that I guess would be around it underneath it is 28 gauge. And he said it's quite a job to do it. He said a crew of 4 to 5 people, it would probably take potentially as many as 10 days to do the whole roof. And there are these types of roofs in other older homes in Traverse City and other places. So essentially, they want to replace the current asphalt roof and go with a granite coated type of roof that has this shingle type look in place of what they've got now.
In a much darker color, which would look nice also.
Yeah, they were talking, right, he was talking about a darker color, and I believe they were similar to the shade that is on that sample. Is what I understand. Michelle, out in California, are you familiar with this type of roofing product?
No.
No? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you were familiar with it.
Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in, or isn't used in other areas of the state, but in the historic district we lived in, that wasn't a typical roofing material.
What, Mark and John, you guys were here and heard the presentation. Those that weren't here, you know, what type of questions do you have? And
Is this what it's essentially gonna look like? This?
that is the product.
That is-
That
this
is the
is-
product, yes.
Which one do you have there?
They have like.
Those were in your package.
No,
your
it's not,
original
it's
package.
not that texture, it's not the,
That's
it's
what
not
I'm
the
wondering, the
shaker though.
texture.
It's not
No,
the shaker.
it's not that one, no, it was much more mellow like the,
Cause I wish I could see it.
you know,
just 'cause
that
this
sample, he
one
didn't leave
is like-
that larger sample, did he?
No,
Oh, okay.
No.
Do you remember, it wasn't, because I even
Wasn't
asked, I
that-
said, is it gonna be like this? And they said, no, 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 and then
Okay.
he had that sample, so it's gonna look much more like a
Normal roof, yeah.
shingled roof, not like a
much more
faux
like a shingled
asphalt,
roof
yeah.
than, okay.
Said you
yeah,
often
folks.
cannot even tell
Yeah.
the difference.
Cause I was gonna say, this gives it a whole other look, like kinda like your.
Ginger, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
that's almost like a split shake, that's even
That just
more
looks like
dramatic than
asphalt.
ours.
Yeah.
It looks like asphalt,
Exactly.
really is what it does.
Looks
And
like
it's-
asphalt? Okay.
Yeah, it's not like overlapping, it's kinda like, it kinda drops, it's,
Mhm.
It's
but
a
from
little
a
more
distance, it looks like asphalt shingles.
Mhm.
What I have to tell you, what he has on there now is, it's really, you know, and I actually went by it and stopped, and it's flat.
Right.
This will have like in my opinion, it'll have a decent texture.
It'll have more of a texture than the
Yeah.
flat that's there. And I know this particular, you know, picture that's up here, you know, just like a lot of homes, we got into that with yours, Mark, was, you know, how much of the, you know, the roof do you actually see depending on where you're standing? You know, this is directly in front, and the one that we looked at here, you know, that's more as you're walking by probably what you're gonna see. But you do have a lot of trees on the west side of the home, et cetera.
The precedent in our guidelines, since you guys have not seen those yet probably, is if you had an original material, whether it was wood siding, whether it was a slate roof, whether it was a cedar roof, whatever. If your original material is there, you're supposed to change like for like or repair the old to the best of your ability. So if you needed a new roof, obviously you get a new one. But if you have the same material available, that's really what the guidelines are stating, that you go with the original material. Once there no longer is the original, it's basically, you can't make them go back to an original. So if it's already asphalt,
Yeah.
at least myself, from my understanding of our guidelines, we don't really have a right to say no, other than the aesthetic. If we thought it was, because it is a historic district, we could say, whatever. If we knew the original looked closer to that, we could even have the possible wiggle room to say, we could mandate, well, you're gonna have to consider this, not the flat shingle look, if we, so, because that's what the original house had. Where, I'm not saying that it had that, but I'm just giving an example of where we would wiggle within these new products versus the old, and where we have to mandate an old or not, or make an exception, like for finances or something like that, if someone were not. And that's something, because what's strictly on paper is much more strict than sometimes we are voting in that direction of not as strict because of finances, because a lot of people can't afford the higher end products for the homes here. So maybe one day the people in these neighborhoods will do that more, but that's sort of what it has seemed like, where you see some leniency, is that's usually the reason it ends up being a little, did that come from you? A little more lenient, but they're already not original material, so
Yeah.
it's not like we're,
And they pointed out this because of the insulation properties and, the lifetime look of this, they were talking what they're proposing doing is certainly gonna be more costly than just replacing asphalt with asphalt. This certainly is a costlier product, but,
They said about 2 times the amount of a normal.
In a single tab,
Yeah.
yeah.
now there also wouldn't be anything wrong if they chose with them going back to a cedar roof, or,
Yeah.
which I
Or
mean,
even-
I doubt that would have had slate as a wood frame home, but,
Now we have slate.
but to go back to the cedar sort of a thing.
Mhm.
Or even
But-
an architectural, like, we
Yeah.
have,
Mm-hmm.
which I know you when I drive by, I'm like, our roof looks just like the Dubrovics, but they have diamonds and we have, yeah.
those are
Anyway.
two fine-looking roofs.
There you go.
Yeah,
So essentially, if, you don't have any more questions, a motion of some kind?
Is it just me, or does everybody like the darker color?
Oh, that's another
Oh, I
thing.
like
I
the
can
dark
tell
one.
you, they
Mhm.
always recommend when you do a roof replacement, like when I did research on our roof, I did a lot of research, and I had examples of historical homes
You're
that
very well
used.
prepared.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and, but they always say, go with a darker product. It just, it looks better. So it'll look better than what's on there.
I was gonna say, I think I like the white, but
Oh,
because
really?
how it just kind of, it's not noticeable, but I
It's probably cooler.
don't mind me being outnumbered because I like it.
It'd be curious to see what shade it was 27 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I would like to see cedar.
But
We can
It's already changed, so I'm not going to complain.
put that in the minutes. Make that suggestion.
Yeah. So, anyway, I'll make a motion to approve this roof proposal for the Wolves.
I'll second.
I think you're all those in favor.
Okay, we'll go
Or
through
just do a
here.
roll call.
Eel,
Yes.
Engels,
Yes.
Bertles, not here. Dubrovic,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Okay, I'll let Dr. and Margaret Wolf know that they can get the contractor on it ASAP.
They should be very happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Knowing what they've done in the past, I'm sure it's gonna look nice.
I had a dark roof place on one of my properties today, and they put light gray shingles on. It was so bad. I just showed up today and it was 75% done.
One of his properties.
Any other informational items? Gwen, have you talked to Ken Payne at all about pavers this year or
No,
not?
I haven't. I'm sorry. I have talked to the JCs though, and I do not know how much has been accomplished, because at least where they've been working, some of the bricks are easy to pick. We're talking about brick picking, by the way, historic bricks. When they come out of the pile pretty clean, they're great to go on the pallet, but when they're all chunked up with cement and stuff, you can have a beautiful brick, but you're literally sitting there with a chisel and a hammer cleaning them up. So that's, I think, what these folks have been doing more, is the chiseling part, so they're definitely not getting as much done this year. There may not be enough to go in this season. And they're going out on Monday evenings. People, anyone, any group, if you guys hear of a group in town or individuals that want to volunteer picking bricks, people that need volunteer hours or something. It's for the streets, so just to let you guys know. People for over on Mason Street, Mason Shelby, they're to work on replacing the old cement plugs with historic bricks that have been salvaged from the Cadillac streets. is what that's for. So these salvage bricks are all in big dirt piles. You got to literally pick them by hand, clean them up, stick them on pallets. And when they're enough to be palleted, then last summer they did do a couple pallets worth of plugging. I think it was three holes last summer, to see how that would go and everything. So if we just did a few a year, eventually they would all be done. But yeah, sort of. I have not been able to be on top of those things.
Do you know how
those kind of
expensive
things
it'd
I've
be
been.
to dig out some of the bricks? Because I saw on that street, that side street by, not by the courthouse, but right, you know what I mean? Talking about that little roundabout.
Oh, where they're
off
doing
of
that work right now?
Cass, where they're doing that work right now.
Yeah.
There was some bricks that they uncovered there at the crosswalk. I wonder how much it would be to pull those out. I don't know
They
how
have to
far it
repave
goes
it,
down
yeah.
the street, but it's definitely the whole crosswalk of brick that they uncovered.
Yeah.
I don't know how
I don't
cost
remember that.
effective that is.
And where exactly is that location?
Up above the courthouse, like where they're doing
Yeah.
that sewer work and they have
Oh,
all
yeah.
this.
Hmm. I mean, that's how they're getting, but what they've been doing before is you have a big backhoe that's like just scraping it up like they're
Yeah.
matchsticks or something, with all these chunks of cement. So a bunch of them get ruined in the process. And then some really good ones are buried in the middle. But yeah, if they're actually, and that's something that might be worth a call to Ken, if he had some guys to
Because it's clear.
pick them up out of especially if those are, because some areas they're cemented in and some areas they're asphalted over, some areas they're just laying in sand. So
Sure.
depending on how they've been set in the ground in that particular spot, if they were able to come up easily, yeah, that'd be awesome.
But they're pretty much uncovered. I don't know
Mhm.
what I can't remember what is surrounding them right now. But
Yeah.
It looked like a nice chunk of brick. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I should tell
want
Gwen.
those.
I
We
saw
want
some.
those.
Well, I remember when they were doing other streets like around us, everybody would go out
Oh
and
yeah,
just
people
and
would.
get
The
them.
neighbors were all like
Yeah, I
ants
took a
picking
few.
bricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and
So,
there's
yeah, you'll be out there tonight.
She's like, all right, 2 in the
Does
morning.
Anybody,
No.
does anybody know when they brick the streets in Cadillac, like approximately what years? I don't know.
Oh,
I'm not sure. I knew it one
Mikey
time, but I'm
probably-
sorry, I don't anymore.
Pardon?
18 something, late 18s, I think.
Mark was just
Oh,
asking,
right.
do you know
When
probably
they
what
brick the
years they
streets, I
bricked
think
the
it was
streets?
dirt, right? So lady tailors, you think?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've
That's
only
everything.
worked for the city a few years, and I've lived in this town for 30, and
Because I've seen historical photos where it looks like it's dirt.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wondered when
Mhm.
that, so you could maybe date a
Yeah.
photo. I was just curious.
Check out the museum.
Yeah. Yeah, I should.
Do some digging.
So, no,
Okay.
that's one of the areas that I've not been able to be as attentive as I was before. So, not much has happened. Bricks are being picked, but again, I don't even know if there's enough. I mean, if there was a pallet, we could probably fill a hole this year. Still be one better than we were before, but
So anybody can just go and pick bricks out of the
yes,
streets?
absolutely. It's on 6th Street, which I don't know how to tell you 6th because, well, I know how to get there. You turn left at Maggie's, and then you turn right on, I think that's Wright Street. Whatever the street is that's right before Heritage Christian. And then you take a right on 6th, and it's down there. It's kind of like where they do that. The food truck is on the other side, and this big warehouse is where, if anyone's ever done the food truck where they hand out free food every other week, that thingy is on that side, and then across the street it's all the city property where you have all those red service trucks. That's where those all are.
Okay.
So you just, if anyone is interested or knows of people doing that, I'm happy to coordinate with Ken Payne, because most of the people that go in volunteering, it's after hours. The city's not even open, but he'll leave the gate open for you and there are like chisels and goggles and gloves. So all the supplies a person would need or people would need would be there for you,
Okay.
But yeah, you're just rifling through big piles of dirt and weeds and brick
Wow.
to get good bricks. Yeah.
But people can't just like pick up bricks when the asphalt's uncovered. Like
From the street?
Yeah, like where the sidewalk is to preserve
It's happened.
those.
See, I'm sure. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna be the
I'm
first.
sure it
I'm
has.
sure.
Yeah, in the deep of night. Well, I think it would go over better if that kind of had a city stamp of approval. But Ken's the one who coordinates all the road stuff, so we could give him a call and say. But I don't. So I haven't been by where you're talking about.
Mhm.
So it shows you how out there I am right now.
I haven't been
Um,
out there in about a week, but last week when I was out there, they had dug out
Yeah.
the whole street, so it was quite a few inches down, and probably about 4 inches down that they had dug out, and
Yeah.
the whole crosswalk was just brick, and it
Mhm.
just made me think about how
Are
much
they
might
ripping the
be-
whole street up?
They ripped the whole street up, a whole block,
Like what they do with
and
ours.
Okay.
actually it was 2 blocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cross
Well,
street
I would
and the
imagine
street.
they wouldn't care on the edges, and if they're there and they haven't been messed with by backhoe, they might be a lot easier to pull out.
They
But
did not look like they were messed with by the backhoe, because it looked like it was even lower than where they had been leveling.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? So, I thought of you when I saw
those
them. I
guys were
said,
not
"Hmm."
happy with me when they had to get the first one out. 'Cause they had to get some out around the cement plugs. Anyway, they're out there with crowbars
And I'm
and
gonna drive up tomorrow and take a look at that.
yeah. Because I mean, it's city property. You know what I mean? And those bricks,
And if
of
it's
course,
not
if it's
too
volunteers from the
expensive,
city,
and you have
or if Ken
some-
would send them out there to
Take a look
pick a few
and
bricks,
depending
believe me,
on
they'd be
the
happier with
outfit,
picking
we
bricks
can
than with laying them. You know.
Yeah.
Scott. It's where
Thank you.
Scott lives, that corner.
That's awesome.
Scott
We'll
is-
look at that tomorrow.
Oh, Scott,
Sandy's-
yes,
yeah,
uh-huh.
Sandy's-
Hopefully they
Scott.
haven't covered up the road by then,
Ah.
because I haven't been
I'll
out
have to
there in a
drive
week,
by
so I don't
there.
Yeah,
know.
I saw some
It's kinda like
pipe
you
and
just
stuff
go
up
up
there, so
Carroll
maybe
Street
we can
Courthouse,
water
you
and
know,
sewer
last
lines.
courthouse.
Right,
They were. They had big crates of all these different
Yeah.
pipes out there.
It's the
yeah.
next block.
Yeah.
Who's Ken?
Excuse me?
Ken.
Ken Payne
Ken Payne,
is
okay.
his name.
Does he work with
He is
Al
our-
Dumond?
I have no idea.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
He's in charge of all the street
Ken's
stuff,
actually
though.
the Department of Public Works Operations Manager. The city engineer and public works director retired. Bruce DeWitt retired. Ken was our street sidewalks supervisor, superintendent supervisor. And he's now the operations manager. But yes, he works with Al Dumond. And Ken
Did-
kind of oversees parks as a part of public works, just like streets.
Is he still the same role but now expanded to other
Yes.
things? So okay, so he's still the
He's
contractor.
had more responsibility given to him.
Okay. So no, I haven't bugged him, but yeah, if you want to bug him, go right ahead. I can give you his phone
Brian
number.
knows how to get hold of him.
I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'll take a look at the bricks tomorrow, and, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, especially if they're in good shape, that we could get them out of there before they get
And I'll
mauled.
get a, email out to, Rob Mungar and ask him about the drip line, and
You know, the bricks, they shouldn't have been cemented in the streets. I think they were just laid tightly.
Some more,
So those
some
were probably
aren't.
from a building.
Hmm.
Well, they're all the same
Oh,
company. You know,
okay.
the Metropolitan.
Okay.
Whatever that company is.
Yeah, I know
yeah.
that company.
But they're just,
Okay.
I don't know if it was the way they did patch jobs in the street or what, but some
Okay.
areas they're cemented
there
together,
were a lot
others
of-
it's just sand, and
Okay.
it's a hodgepodge.
Okay.
You know, when they dig up one of our streets, is what it looks like. So.
Okay. Because I just know that they laid them generally really
Yeah.
tight. And
Well, they
didn't
have
use
a
cement.
bumper in there that's like a whole 1/4 inch, so it's big. You would think brick to brick, but no, it's like a gap that big. If you go walking our streets, they're big gaps, Mark.
But is there cement in there?
Well, that's what I
Really?
mean. Some of those have sand between them, and then others have cement. So once they're
It could
cemented,
have
you've got a
separated
big,
over the years. 'Cause
yeah,
I think, okay.
yeah, and you
That-
have a big. It's a thick layer of,
Wow. Okay, I'll check it out.
it's like a
That's-
1/4 inch at least of cement when the ones have been cemented. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay,
anyway,
is anything else under informational items?
I don't have anything.
I guess then, commissioner comments?
I am so excited
You beat
with
me.
our board.
So, yeah.
Our
Yeah.
new head commissioner and our new assistant head commissioner.
And our old
and our old secretary.
Yeah. Actually, I do have a couple of comments. I wasn't here that meeting, but Scott, Scott, oh my gosh, his last name is not coming to me, but he mentioned about the Michigan Bell Building, I think at one of the and I was not at that meeting. But anyway, I contacted somebody who wrote wrote a lot of articles, and I think even a book on Yamasaki, who is a famous architect. And that he says that building most likely is a Yamasaki. That would be pretty significant.
Sure would be nice if
I
we could
actually
beautify it
did a
a
little
little.
reading on that, and there actually was an architect name listed, and I believe it's in the historic, our survey sheets, like
Yep.
you've got the survey sheet. And I did some research, and the architectural firm that did it, this person he mentioned had at one time worked for that architectural firm,
For a few years, yes.
but it was not during the time when the building was done.
I think the building was done in the late 40s. And that's when Yamasaki was with that firm. My research, it was the same years.
It was
Yeah.
the same, so, but.
I
yeah.
think 47 through 50?
Mhm. I'll relook that up. I know I did some, I did some research, and I kind of got the impression that the particular person he mentioned, he had only
Yamasaki.
worked for that firm for like a couple of years. But I'll double check it.
Okay.
I was able to find a little information on it.
Yeah, I think the home was torn down in 47,
Mhm.
the Diggins home, and the building was built like 48, 49. And
Is that
that's
the Edison building now? What building is
AT&T.
AT&T.
That mid-century, yeah.
AT&T, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and Yamasaki, he's the one who did like the World Trade
Yeah.
Centers. And
Mhm.
but it looks a lot like his office building that he built in, I think it's in Troy. I always said it was a cool building, but everybody else was like, ugh.
Wow. It just didn't replace such a neat one, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, yeah, that's
If
true.
Higgins was still there,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
There were people that didn't like Frank Lloyd Wright's work either, but. you
Right,
know.
right. That's, yeah.
So, good. Okay.
I guess that's it. Any other comments? Okay.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Let's make a motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Great.
All in
Everybody in favor?
favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.